Hi guys, welcome to another video on Tech with Shakul. Now don't worry about the board, I'm not here to teach you anything today. But I have a very special guest for you guys who's gonna throw some light on how you can advance into data science as a career option. This person has not only been my guru, my mentor, but also my go-to person for anything and everything related to technology. It gives me immense pleasure in inviting Sony Laskar, India's leading data scientist, to the chat. So without any further ado, let's call Sony. Welcome Sony, and thanks a lot for coming.
Thanks, Shakul. Pleasure with you here.
Now, you can find Sony on any data science platform that exists, be it Kaggle, Analytics Vidya, TechGig, anywhere you can find Sony. In fact, fun fact, in my starting years of data science, I used to go in this platform, Analytics Vidya, and to see all the blogs and all. And I used to constantly see Sony's name on the top 5 list on the sidebar there. So that's the kind of presence I'm talking about. He has been there for a lot of time. So it won't be wrong to say that in the data science world, Sony needs no introduction. But for my viewers watching, I would just quickly introduce you with Sony. Sony is one of the leading data scientists in the country. He has been awarded and recognized at various platforms, be it Microsoft Predictive Analytics, SIG Global Automation Professionals, and TechGig Code Gladiators back to back for the year 2017 and 2018. Very recently has been awarded as one of the top 10 data scientists 2020 by Analytics India magazine. He's a postgraduate from IIM Indore, and he has pursued advanced analytics courses from University of Texas. He has a cumulative experience of over 15 years and is working as a director, principal data scientist at Microland. So Sony, starting from 2007 as a data warehouse engineer and coming up to India's leading data scientist, it has been quite a journey. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's still on.
It
The
will
journey
be
is
on.
still on.
I guess you'll be a good
Yeah.
data scientist till 60s.
Yeah, I think it's a journey. We're in the initial phases, I think, and it's been fun till now.
Yeah, yeah. So, Sony, I know that you have been asked this question a lot of times, like how to become a data science, how to learn data science. In fact, I myself have asked you this a lot of times, I guess. But I would ask you that how do you, like being a data scientist myself, I know that there are a lot of ups and downs in this field. Especially in data science, you don't get early success. So what has been your key moments in your journey that, this data science will be my big thing? This is, how did you get that perseverance and persistence in this field?
So you see, the initial part of my career was predominantly around data engineering and building data warehouses. Okay. So I was playing with data from then, right? It was not something new for me. Setting up warehouse, making data pipelines and making data available for someone else to analyze. That's what I was doing in the initial part, right? So I was very, accustomed with with the infrastructure part of things, with the way, data gets processed end to end, right? But I never spent too much time on the actual analysis of the data, right? On the actual use case of the data, right? So kind of it was logical for me to move from that piece of data engineering and data setups to the next phase, which is the science part of data, right? And when I was doing my MBA, I got exposed to a huge amount of case studies across various industries, and almost every case study was around how company A or organization A is using their data or they're acquiring data, things like that, to get a competitive edge, right? And I could clearly see that connect. It kind of horizontal, it kind of cuts across industry. It is something that it is not specific to one industry. It is so generic in terms of it. Correct. It has so much of adoption across so many industries, and that's where I kind of recollected back to what I was doing, right? Saying that okay, all the time I was setting up, pipelines to process terabytes of data.
You understood the importance of that.
Fun.
Yeah.
Correct. For us, it was fun doing that setup, but we never looked into why that data how that data could be used. And those case studies kind of started making me think, that this is the part which I should logically take ahead. Okay. And given the fact that I had a fair bit of programming experience and I understood infrastructure setup, all of that to a very good extent, it was kind of logical and easy for me to deep dive into that.
Yeah.
And that's where it all started. And the more I started getting into this, what I realized is this is actually very challenging. The initial, it looked very simple.
Yeah.
Anybody who sees data science for the first,
Yeah, it looks
Correct.
fancy.
Any person who sees data science for the first time, probably he will think that, okay, I will do a course online, or I will take this 1 year course, and then I will become a data scientist and I will do magic, right? It
Yeah.
is not like that. It is extremely difficult. In fact, I can predict that 50% of the people who are today pursuing data science, or doing a course, or doing, after 2 years they will be doing completely different thing.
Yeah.
They won't do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's because it is extremely challenging. It is extremely demanding. It's
Mm.
not like other, for example, if you learn web development, right,
Mhm.
you can actually survive for maybe 5-6 years
And the
knowing
thing
the
is, web
technology.
development is you can see the change instantaneously. You can see your progress. But
Correct.
data science, you
You can,
need persistence to, get a good data scientist results and all of that. You need persistence for that.
correct. You need persistence, and at the same time, your technology landscape is completely changing.
Yeah, yeah,
So if you go on a vacation for 6 months, then if you come back, you will
yeah.
you'll
You'll see.
realize that you don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Correct. All new set of tools and
yeah.
technologies. People are
That
not
that
talking
leads
about
to
your
me the
models.
next question also. We have seen that data science is evolving rapidly, and you especially have seen that what data science used to be a part-time job for data crunching 15 years ago has become a integral component of any industry. You need and any
Correct.
product that we have in the market today, if it is not backed by data science or machine learning, we don't give a damn about it, right? So anything
Hmm.
today in the market has data science impact. And we have seen there is a fair amount of shift in the landscape, as you mentioned, in the technologies as well. Earlier, we used to use Excel, but as the amount of data grew, we shifted to R and Python and those kind of languages. And today we see features like Auto ML and ML as a service by various cloud service providers like Azure, AWS. So, how important do you feel that is learning these technologies as compared to learning the existing algorithms like regression models and all of this?
Yeah. Okay. So all of these technologies and all these solutions that we talked about are only for the purpose of making life simpler. Okay. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, yeah.
Auto ML service, all of this are just to make your life simple.
Mhm.
Okay. Fundamentals are important. If you don't know fundamentals, you can be a good consumer of these solutions.
Industry, yeah.
Okay. Let's say someone doesn't know data science, he can use something like an Auto ML, put some data and get some solution, right? But he will never be able to go to the next level
Okay.
where he has to actually augment the solution,
He won't be
make
able
some
to
tweaks
build
around it,
use cases out of that. He can be a good
strong use
consumer.
cases.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Correct. You won't be able to be a thinker, right? You can only
Mhm.
be a user of a solution. You can't be a
Mhm.
thinker.
Mhm.
That's why it's very important to know fundamentals, and it is applicable to any kind of learning, whether you are
Mhm.
learning a new language, or you are learning a new skill, or you
Mhm.
are learning something which is which you have not done. You have
Mhm.
to go through the basics. That's the
Mhm.
maturity curve. You
Mhm.
have to know the basics, and then at some point of time, you might not actually need that much of the basics. You might
Mhm.
not do that much of, you will, let's say for example, you don't need to know how a linear model is built,
Yeah, yeah.
right? How does a root mean square error gets calculated?
Yeah.
What is
Mhm.
the function to do that? You don't need to do that. But if you know how it is built, it might
Mhm.
influence a lot of your decisions when you're
Mhm.
applying that to a solution,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise you might apply anything to anything,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you might get good results, and you might feel good about it, right? Which is not true.
Yes.
So what I always say is, you start with the fundamentals, but once you have learned that, you may not need to go very deep into it, in
Mhm.
terms of, and depending on what you do. If you are a
So basic
researcher
understanding
and who,
is important. A basic
correct,
understanding is
basic
very
understanding is important, because that will influence how you apply your solution,
important.
right? So if you don't know the basics, and let's say someone doesn't know how a linear model is built, what is the underlying fundamental of a decision tree, right? He has no idea. He
Mhm.
has this tool where he can upload a data, set this XY parameter. I want to predict this. It's a binary classification. I want to use AUC as my
Mhm.
evaluation metric. Go
Mhm.
and build, right? He will get some model saying 99% AUC, good. This will actually, if he doesn't know how things work and he doesn't have a basic understanding of things work, he will always mess around with these results.
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen with people who have not spent a decent amount of time in actually doing things ground up,
Ground up.
face when they go to the next step and they start using these tools. And
Mhm.
all these tools will always market themselves saying that, okay, here is this tool, just use it and you're done, right? And
Yeah.
which is perfect from their point of view, right?
Mhm.
It's important how you use it. These tools are always going to be useful. A good data scientist is going to use AutoML. A good data scientist will use an ML as a service thing,
Mm.
but also he will use his own value add on top of it,
Yeah,
which makes
that's
us
the value that he's adding as a business persona. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. All right. So, Sony, if you were to restart somehow, if I say that you were to restart your journey, how would you start learning data science? Will you focus more on competitions, learning technologies, auto ML, or would you stick to your plan of learning, statistics and the maths behind that? How would you restart?
Okay, I think this is very important, and
Yeah.
let me just take some notes and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know show
That
it so the people can follow along. Okay, so you said about if someone has to restart, and or if I was to restart, what is the logical flow that kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
I would have
exactly.
followed, right?
Mhm.
So I break this thing into few sections, right? So the first important thing is someone who is starting up, and even if it was me, is the coding part. Okay,
Learning a language.
so
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
correct. People who don't know programming, kind of want to give this a very low importance, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Someone might say that I will use a GUI based tool, which will help
Mm-hmm.
me do that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine, but I don't belong to that school of thought. My school of thought is, if you want to be a great data scientist, you need to have a very strong hold on some form of programming language, right? A programming language is a
Agreed.
way of
Yeah.
expressing thoughts that you have in your brain,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
You have to express that, and you have to validate that, and that is programming. That's what is. You can't do everything in Excel, right?
Yeah.
You
You
have
can't do
to
it.
correct. Excel is kind of one-dimensional or two-dimensional way of thinking. Programming is multi-dimensional way of thinking, right? And that's where you need to know coding, and depending on where you are in your journey, you have to pick up one. And from a data science point of view, we today know Python is the leading programming language. If you are just starting, or you can take up R. There are new programming languages like Julia, and new programming languages come. Okay, it doesn't matter what you start with, right?
So you can
Eventually, you
start
will
with
learn.
any
You can
coding
start
language.
with any.
Hmm.
You will start with any, and eventually, will learn more, because at some point of time, you'll start interacting with multiple people in your team, and multiple technology suites where you will be using more than more than one technology. So if you already are coming with some knowledge, then you can continue on that, but you have to pick up your coding
Hmm.
exercises and
Hmm.
learn that thing. And when I say coding, it is not just writing just writing the syntax of the language. Sorry. It's not about writing the syntax of the language. It's also about the way of problem solving, right?
Hmm.
If if you go to all these programming platforms, right,
Lead
where you
code
get
or yeah.
questions and you
Uh,
solve, right, like
Geeks for Gigs. Yeah.
Hacker Earth, Hacker Rank, every such, right, and all of
Hmm.
them, right, like, where you have a problem statement, you have to write a code to solve that, and that is
Hmm.
very useful, because
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
actually brings the logical way of thinking, right?
Hmm.
Writing the code is just one part of it. It's just about converting your thoughts into code,
Hmm.
but thinking like that,
The
right?
syntax part is not
What
that
is the
important.
way to solve?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The syntax part is not that important. That's why I said you can learn any programming language and you'll be able to do great.
Hmm.
It's about how do you write that code, right? And it's not actually very easy.
Hmm.
If you take any of those programming questions, and you have to look at, how do I search, how do I go, right?
Also the
Do I do
complexity part.
cumulative study?
How do I manage
Also
my
the
data structures well so that
correct.
I'm not leaking any memory and stuff like that. Yeah.
Correct. There are a lot of dimensions, right? How do
Hmm.
how do you prevent all those problems from happening?
Hmm.
You might do something which is not expected, and
Hmm.
you'll only come to know at the end, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Those are logical reasoning capabilities that you have to learn over time. But if you have a programming language, then only you can express that and think. Let's say you're very good at logical reasoning.
Hmm.
You're very good at problem solving, logical reasoning, and you can frame things properly. But you don't know programming language, then you cannot validate that
You
thinking
don't
on
have a
with pen and
validate
paper.
link between the two. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Correct. You can't write this and validate,
Hmm.
right? If you can't think, then you are a software developer.
Hmm.
Okay. Then you're a software developer. You will do great in software development tasks like web development and other pipeline stuff, right? Where you don't have to think too much in terms of how the problem has to be
How the
solved.
problem? Yeah.
So that is important.
Hmm.
But you learn coding, and that's important, because without that you cannot go ahead. You're kind of handicapped if you don't know coding,
Hmm.
right? The next important thing is the concepts. Okay. Now, you're good at coding, you know fundamental things, how to go about, how to write things, how to express things. Now, when a data science point of view, there are a lot of fundamental concepts. You talked about
Yeah.
regression, right?
Yeah.
That's a fundamental concept, right? You have to know, if someone is new and is just starting, he has to go through that concepts thing. He has to understand, what are the building blocks of data science and machine learning. What are the, how do they work? How it is actually implemented at the very basic level, right?
Because
The
these
whole idea of
replicate
feature
in all the
engineering.
algorithms that you see. Even in neural networks, you'll see a basic ROC curve and all of these basic metrics replicating over there as well. So you need to
Correct.
understand the base of that. Yeah.
Correct. So when you're talking about neural networks, what is backpropagation? How do the derivatives, get propagated from the first layer to the last layer and back, right? Well, you might not be very great in calculus, which is perfectly fine, but you understand this whole idea of slope and gradient, right? So
Yeah.
those concepts are important. If you don't know this concept and you just know I can build 5 layers of network and put some arbitrary numbers of nodes and just let a model build, you might by luck get good results,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be sustainable in the long run.
Exactly.
So concepts is important. That's where you go to various MOOCs and other places where you can learn, concepts. You can also take a course somewhere to understand, how this works. But this is a big area, right? This area needs to be filled in terms of learning, and the internet is filled up with, hundreds of thousands of resources. A lot of people who are sharing their knowledge, right?
But it is
You can
important that you
go
don't
and
take a shortcut path like 5 hours into data science. You learn the key concept, take some time, take 1 month or 2 months,
correct.
learn some those concepts, and then build on top of that. Okay. Yeah.
Correct. So when you know coding and when you have the concepts, right? One of the very easiest way, which for new people to kind of validate this, is this whole idea of competitions. Okay, which means that okay, now I've learned some concepts, I know how to write code, but I am still not working in a team where I can get to solve a problem, right? So what do I do? Go and participate in competition. There are hundreds and thousands of competitions happening across the globe, various platforms, right? Right from very small and easy problem statements all the way to extremely complex and $1 million problem statements are running, right? So pick the easier ones, and go through that journey, right? In that process, you learn a lot in terms of what other people tried, what you tried, right? What are the various ways people are thinking. This whole idea of feature engineering becomes so important, which people learn from competitions, right? That person won the competition because he built this
The
crazy
point
feature.
that you're making is, even if you're working in a team or an environment where data science is not that predominant, then also you can challenge yourself through these competitions.
Yes.
You can
Yes, you don't. Correct. You made the statement right. You can go to a platform. You can, and this is, and the because competitions can be from different domains.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily be in your domain. That perspective also helps you understand new domain and understand new data, right? So that is important. So you should go take up, so you have learned coding, you understand the concepts, and then you go to competitions where you start solving them, right? It's a flow that people have to, kind of go. And once you are able to do good here, you kind of still, not complete picture, but you get a basic picture of, how good you are, right? Do you understand the concepts? Is it making sense to you, right? So that's the flow that people follow. And the last thing is your channel, okay, or I would say connections, okay. Use your connections or your channel or your network or your people where you work, or your friends, anyone, right, where you can go and kind of start working. Okay. Right, let's say you are in a company, in some team where there is no data science stuff, right? But you have done all these three, right? Now you have to use your channel and connection to find a place where you can go and apply this, right? Maybe you might not be able to get a job directly, right? Because this field is so competitive and people and the market is flooded with hundreds and thousands of people applying. So differentiation is so important, right? So find a way to get to a place where you can work a real world industry problem, right?
Because
Whether
that
it
is
could be in
where
the same organization.
Yeah, that is where you'll be able to implement all the learnings that you have taken so far. Yeah.
Correct. So you could apply that. It could be within your company in a different team, or it could be completely different. Let's say there's a friend or a mentor who is doing great in data science in some organization. You say, give me some problems, I want to work offline. You can also take up an open problem on the internet, take some genuine problem, try to build something around it and show it,
Yeah.
or things like that. So basically you have to find a way to get real work. Okay, real problem, real solving, real work. That makes, because competitions don't give you real world problem. Okay, they give you real world problem, but they remove a lot of things from, they actually give you the core problem, which is the ML problem. But
Get
behind the ML problem,
you get a training set, you get a testing set, and you get some metrics.
correct,
You don't have the raw
correct,
data that we see in the actual world.
correct. And how the data was generated, what was the philosophy behind building that, how did they arrive at that use case, what was the business justification that people built to come to that, right? Those things are not there in a competitions, right? And there are things after the competition is built, right? How does it productionize, how does it work, does it work well?
So
those
starting
things you
from
don't see in a competition.
Pushing the data into the pipeline to actually productionizing it, getting key insights from
Correct.
that is the whole pipeline that you're talking about. Okay.
Correct. So getting an internship or a project is so important, because that's where you do some real production learning, right? And that's how that's what helps you, right? That's why I call the 4C model, in terms of how someone who is new should actually follow, so that they kind of understand how they would actually go about solving this.
Okay. So, Sony, you have sat across in hundreds of interviews, I'm sure. And how do you differentiate between a good and a best data scientist? What is their key metrics that you're looking for in a data science interview, or from a data science guy? What is that key metrics?
Yeah, again, this depends. Let me again write something, good or bad data science guy, right? See, it depends on what is the experience band and at what level someone is joining, right? But for me, a pure good data science is someone who still has a decent experience, right? He's not the entry guy right now, right? He has already solved problem and he's coming to solve some problems, right?
That experience could be from competitions as well. Like if you have,
this is competitions only experience is not sufficient. You have to work in a real world problem also.
Okay.
So when I say data science guy here, I'm saying someone who has already worked in the real world, right? He might have done competitions, which are great thing, right? And he might have won also, which is another, if you win all of this, is all adding to your profile, right? But they're not complete then in themselves, right? So I'm talking about someone who is, let's say a 4 or 5 years experience guy, who has worked on various data science problem, and let's say you're hiring him to solve your problems and your data science initiatives, right? So what do you expect? Few things are, one is this whole idea of logical reasoning. Okay, I've seen many people not great at this, right? This is so important for data scientists going ahead, is whenever they are going to solve problems, right? This whole idea around why it is being done, right? Why, what type of, let's say you have a problem, what type, how do you feature engineer that, right? If you don't know the problem, you won't be able to think about it.
The art of,
right?
Asking questions, asking right questions.
Correct.
Why do we need that? And so on and so forth.
Yeah. The art of asking questions, the art of asking right questions, and validating, does it make sense from a business point of view, right? Whether to even go or no go, right? You don't just start and someone comes and says, okay, I have this problem, let's build a data science model
to come up with 10 solutions, and then you cross on, this is not viable, this is not
correct. Your solution can also be a non-data science solution. Right. You might also say that, this problem can be solved in this way, and you don't actually need a machine learning model, right? To do that, right? So you don't have to apply data science just because you have been brought into the conversation, right? This whole idea of logical reasoning is so important, because if you, a data scientist is not just about writing code and putting model into production. He's the first guy to think about a problem statement. How will I apply it? What features will I build? Right? Given the problem statement, given the data that I have, what data do I need? So that's a very important question, right? In competitions and everywhere, you get the data, right? Somebody has done that work of studying the data landscape and telling you that for this problem, you need these 5 data sets, right? But you might be in that stage where you will be engaging with the, business owners, where you have to figure out what data do you need, because this study is important, You might
Yeah,
find
suppose
out
you're
that the
building
data that
something
you
like
need.
customer segmentation in the e-commerce industry. This is a very common problem. So what metrics you need
Correct.
to get from there? Because that's humongous data. You can get customer data from any platform, but that's humongous data.
Correct.
You
So
need
it's
to find out. Yeah. Hmm.
right. So it's very huge. The data is huge. So exactly what do you need? If I just go and give me all your customer data,
Hmm.
it's a very open-ended question. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You have to say, give me, let's say you are building fraud detection, then
Hmm.
give me transaction data of this customers from so and so location,
Hmm.
right? That's, you have to pin down the problem. Then now the question is, will you get the data?
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
that data available?
Hmm.
Right? Right. There is a data privacy part of things. There are a lot of domains where the data that you want, right, which might be great,
Hmm. It's not
is not
available.
legally allowed. For example, let's say you are building a model where you want to use a caste or religion or things like this or gender as a important feature because you think this influence the outcome,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
but maybe the domain doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
Maybe the regulation doesn't allow that, right?
Hmm.
So this all are part of this logical reasoning process, saying that okay, what data do I need? How will I feature engine? What features does it make sense? You know, to do
So
that.
given the
Once people
constraints, you
start,
need to build the solution around those constraints. If there is a data privacy
correct.
issue, if there is a data issue, and all of that. Yeah.
Correct. So when you start with competitions, people will start with the Titanic dataset problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the Titanic dataset problem, as you analyze the data, one of the feature that has been found is if a person has a large number of family
Yeah. Family
members
ties.
on the
Yeah.
board,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're likely to stay there. They're
Hmm.
likely to die also because they're actually trying to escape altogether, right?
Altogether. Hmm.
Now that's a logical reasoning. Someone has to think, does it make sense if someone is alone on the ship
Now
or
that's a
he's with
feature
his
that you
wife and
don't
kids?
get in the raw data. There's no feature
Correct.
called as
It's not
family
there in
ties.
the raw data.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the raw data. It's a logical reasoning saying, does it make sense to see how many family members are there with that person on the board, on that ship? And will it impact the outcome whether they will survive or not survive? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a logic. And you can think this in your use case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense? Let's say you're getting a fraud transaction, credit card fraud data, and then you're saying, does it make sense? What is the run rate of number of transactions happening in a small period of time? Or is it important? What is the volume of size of the transaction,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When fraud happen, a credit card fraud usually is seen like people will do a small
Transaction.
transaction,
Mm-hmm.
let's say $1 transaction to validate that the card details are correct,
Correct.
and then they will follow by an even larger amount, and then slowly they will go ahead so that their system doesn't get blocked,
So
right?
that's the flag
So
that you need
a
to
lot,
identify. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you need to identify like how many transactions happening. A normal user doesn't do, let's say, 5 transactions in 5 minutes, but this is suddenly doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the logical reasoning, and that's what data scientists excel at, and they're supposed to excel at, right?
Okay.
So I will always see if the data scientist is good at this. If I give a problem and he directly starts writing model to solve that problem, then these are not traits of a good data scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Spending time here, if that person comes and says that I won't even build this as a data science problem, it's even easier to solve it, then that's a better solution also, right? Sometimes. So it's important that people are good at logical reasoning and problem solving skills, right?
Mm.
One of the other things that I see is many people start with this, ml.fit. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is one of the indicators of bad data scientist. Okay.
Okay.
If I've given someone and they just start with ml.fit, they're trying to fit a model on the data, completely bad. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
That's not your first step. You never start with this. Okay. This
Mm-hmm.
is somewhere in the middle, and you should not do that. There are people who don't do EDA, exploratory data analysis. They don't do this.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This is also a trait of a bad data scientist. Okay. You have to spend a significant amount of time on just analyzing the data. Just open it in Excel, for example, see some trends, see some charts, see some correlation study, get a feel of the data. What are the fields? How many are they categorical? Are they numeric? Are they ordered? Right? What is the scale? What is the range? Right? You have to spend a decent amount of time on the EDA, and if you're not doing that, then you are not a good data scientist, because then you're directly jumping to the solution, and you will always not find the good parameters without doing a decent EDA. That's important. I talked about the why part in the logical reasoning, and it's very important. Is always answer this question: why are you building that solution? Because this why is going to influence your solution. Okay, let's say you're building something which is where you have to predict something, and you have a couple of seconds to build the prediction, because after a couple of seconds of prediction, your data is useless or your
Yeah.
prediction is useless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Understood.
In fact, those problem statements, this is how on this side you have value and this is time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the value of your prediction exponentially decreases with time. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you predict it here, then it is valuable. But if you predict it here, it is not valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if that is the type of problem that you're trying to solve, then your solution is going to change.
Yeah.
That means your entire pipeline in which you're going to analyze the data, parse the data, structure the data, build models, predict models, all of that has to happen in sub-millisecond range.
So the
right?
latency
How
part
will your
should be very, very less. Yeah.
latency, yeah, that why might become a latency issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then how do you architect your solution? How do you say that, what is the technology stack that you will use? How will you productionize the code? Will you use a deep learning model whose prediction might take, let's say, 10 minutes to give you the prediction, or a simple linear model which will give you prediction in 2 seconds? Good enough, right? There is a trade-off that you have to do between accuracy and speed.
There's a trade-off, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So all of these things will come from your why.
And this trade-off depends majorly on the problem that you're trying to solve. So basically,
on the problem.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's why spending time on the why is very important. Otherwise, you might take a solution which will be great in terms of the results, right? And that's why many competitions that you see, the winner's solution doesn't get used by the company as is. Because what they do is they take the solution, they extract the most important parts of it. For example, the best features that they got, or the way approach that they used, and they re-architect the solution in a way so that their why is achieved, right? But in a real world, it becomes important. So if I see a data scientist not spending too much on the why part, it's a bad data scientist. Okay. That's important. What you need to do, and that means you should not jump to ensembles and all that, right? You will see this is a bad habit derived from competitions. This is basically a subplot of competitions. In competitions, you win by going on top of the leaderboard, which means every decimal point counts, right?
Yeah.
So that means you will build hundreds of models, hundreds of different types of models, ensemble them, build an average, and try to do that, right? Which is good for your winning, right? But in the production setup, it is many times not needed, not useful, and it will again be not consistent with your why. Correct. This also brings me to the next point of cost, right? This is important. We all talk about training machine learning models and building solution, but if you don't do the cost benefit analysis, right? Let's say your training script can take, let's say, a 5-6 hour window on a large GPU cluster, right?
Then it's not a cost.
Then you have to analyze what is the cost of. Is it cost effective? What is the business solution? What is the interval? Will you retrain it? Right? All of those questions come into perspective. Then you might not build ensemble of hundreds of thousands of models. You might build only one model that to optimize enough to run in that different, in a given period of time. So cost is important, right? Because you don't have infinite cost. When you are running, you're running, working for an organization, you are doing these things. You have to be cost sensitive. If you're running this on your cloud servers, what will be your cost bill? Right? It's very important that you look it from a cost perspective, because cost benefit analysis is important, right? Right. And the last thing is on the productionization of stuff, right? How do you productionize your solution is very important, because
how do you reach the next billion users?
Model, correct. So when you want to do that, it's not, you don't get unlike a competition, you don't get data like that. You don't get a CSV file and you can just start building and predicting, right? Productionization means end-to-end connectivity. How your data will come, how will the pipeline happen, how will you use containers and Docker images, building things, predicting things, how will the APIs come, where you will expose the APIs for prediction. That is productionization. If you have no idea of how productionization will happen, then you will always be dependent on a data engineer to guide you in the right direction, right? You might not have to do that productionization. You don't have to write the entire code of the pipeline, but you have to influence the way it has to be done,
because that will influence your solution
also. Correct.
So for now, the people who are watching, Sony is an amazing data scientist. By far, you have understood that. But apart from that, he's a serial hacker. I like to call him that, because very early in his career, he was awarded as the Kaggle master in competition And not just that, he has participated in hundreds of hackathons and won quite lot of them. So it would be wrong if we don't talk about hackathons with Sony. So Sony, like you mentioned that in a good data scientist, these are the key metrics. Like you should have a hang of data, you should know the core concepts, and you should also know the productionization and the constraints that you have. But in a data
Hmm.
science competition, we have a limited set of time. We have only, let's say, 24 hours or 48 hours, and you might have a challenging technology at hand, like something you might not have
Hmm.
been used to. So
Hmm.
what goes into your mind in when you are participating in a hackathon? Let's say you see a data science problem, what goes into your mind? What is your to-do list that you like to follow?
See, there are two types of hackathons broadly. Okay, one is this pure competition stuff, which is done offline, which
Mhm.
is done online. Sorry, where you have a very defined problem statement, right? It's very fine-tuned and defined. You have the data, you have the evaluation metric, you have the way you have to test and train, and you have to build and your final evaluation is only on that one single number, which is
Mhm.
the accuracy or AUC or whatever is the evaluation metric, which is the leaderboard, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Those types of competitions are dealt in a different way because you are evaluated on that one number. So you know that you will be evaluated. If you are there on the top, you have won, no matter whether your model is useful, not useful.
So nobody actually gets look into the code that you have built or the algorithm that you have used. They see the
Yeah,
leaderboard.
those types of competitions don't correct. They do it much later, but you as a participant, for you it's very defined, right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
win it if you're there on the top of the leaderboard, right? And
Mhm.
how you get there is your way of getting it, right?
Mhm.
So important is when you're early on in this place, and I used to do it when I was, in the initials. Now I'm not doing that much. But what you should do is you should team up, find the right people,
Mhm.
like-minded people who are also doing this,
Mhm.
and do this together, right?
Okay. Mhm.
Because when you do that, even if you don't win that competition, right, only two or three people will win, but
Mhm.
everyone else will learn, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's important. If you're learning there, what you do is you form a team and you
Mhm.
start engaging with them. And when you are doing that when you're doing that in team, everybody is bringing some ideas,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those are important. That helps you
It's
collectively,
also a very good place
solve
to
that problem
network.
better.
The thing that you
It's
were
also a very
mentioning
good place to
about
network.
about the channel and networking part, the earlier in the earlier section, this place is a
Hmm.
very good hackathons is a very good place to build your network. You can learn about different
Yes.
people, what they are doing, what is their logical reasoning, and what goes in the back of their mind. You can very easily do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and by nature, this thing is designed in a way where people are incentivized to share.
Hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a secret sauce that people want to keep with themselves, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
incentive is to share. That's why you
Yeah.
will see every competition winner coming and telling you the solution,
Hmm.
writing a blog post or putting a YouTube video on how they win, and they share, right? The incentive
Mm-hmm.
is in sharing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's good. You actually learn from them and you start taking those key. Okay, I didn't think like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So forming a team and doing together in a collaborative manner is better than doing it in as a
Alone.
solo,
Yeah.
right? In the initial days, once
Mm-hmm.
you have become a master and you are an expert, you want to go solo for winning the competition. It's a different game. But when you are doing it for learning and you should always do as a team,
Mm-hmm.
engage and learn that thing, right?
Okay.
So that is very important, and you focus on the problem, right? You focus on the core problem and start applying various approaches, because you don't get scrutinized for building hundreds of models and ensemble them and all that, right? That's your
Mm-hmm.
stuff. The
Mm-hmm.
another set of hackathons that happen are the offline ones. Okay, the
Mm-hmm.
ones which is basically let's say a 2-day event, right, where all of these people will get together and they will
Okay.
compete together, right?
Mhm.
There will be a series of pre online rounds which you still
Mhm.
have to clear and then get to
Clear.
that stage,
Mhm.
right? But once you get to that stage, in those types of setups, the evaluation process is different. It's
Mhm.
not about coming top of the leaderboard.
Mhm.
First of all, the problem statements that you will get there in those types of hackathons are actually business problems from somebody who's trying to solve something, right?
It could be a
And
finance
that's why,
sector. It could be a traffic problem. I've seen traffic problems for Bangaloreans as well, coming up in
hmm,
hackathons, and those will be real life problems basically. Yeah. Mm.
correct, they will be real life problem, and they will not be very clear.
Yeah.
Okay, it will
Yeah.
be at a 30,000 feet, saying that
Mm.
okay, this is the broad thing that I want to do. Okay, now you have to, let's say you also talk about traffic, right? Bangalore government wants to uh, ensure that the total traffic condition is minimized,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
a broad statement, and then you have
Very
to
broad.
come down what data do you get, how do you solve it, right? So this competition will always have a broad statement, right? And they will also always give you data which is very much, you know, not structured like the online competitions, right? They will give you this data, they'll give you this data. They will also tell you where you can get some data on your own, in terms of go there and get some data. There are open data sets available. So it is on you on how you're going to view this data. Your perception of the data is going to be different from someone else, right? That's why in offline competitions, everybody's solution is, you know, there's a huge, you know, difference in their solution,
because,
right? Because
as you said, there's a broad topic, and which part do you focus on is very important. That's the key differentiating metrics in the offline hackathon part.
Correct. So in the offline hackathon part, it kind of closely resembles to a real world problem, as if you are working in an organization, you're solving that, because you have a problem which is 30,000 feet, and then you have to break it down, and then you have to ask the why questions. Why are we doing this? From the why perspective, right? You have to build a solution that is acceptable, right? The latency part, the cost part, all of that becomes, you know, important. The only challenge here is you have limited time. Okay, you have, let's say, 2 days, 48 hours to solve this problem, which means that you can't, you have to go with a mix of deep and wide, right? If you take a problem statement and let's say only focusing on the data part, how will build a better data, right? And you got very deep inside that, saying that, okay, I will scrap data from here, I will crawl data from here, I will get this images, I will get this, and then I have a data lake with all the good data that I need. But you still don't have a view on whether you will be used this in data to solve the problem, whether this data is useful. You don't have a view, because the entire 48 hours you used in only figuring out how good I can build a data.
So it's important, the spectrum of things that you cover, like not just the data.
You have to go wide. That's important. You have to go wide and also go deep to the extent which is important from a hackathon perspective. See, you cannot solve a production ready, you can't build a production ready solution in 2 days, right? People take 6 months, and that is not expected. What is expected is how are you able to come up with innovative ideas to solve the problem, and you have done some work which gives little bit confidence in that you can do it, or what you are saying is doable. It is not hypothetical statement that, okay, we'll get this data, we'll do like this.
You have not made a lot of assumptions, and you have not made a lot.
You have made, correct. So when you say that, okay, this is the data, this is how it will be done, the deep part has to be good enough to give confidence that yes, this is doable. Not more than that, because if you go more than that, then you've eaten up all the entire time, right? And the wide part is giving you confidence on the end-to-end part.
End-to-end connection.
Saying that, okay, I will do this, I'll get this data. This is at the base. Let's say you will say, I will take traffic images, and then I will analyze, I will find out all the cars in them, and then I will extract the car number. And then once I've extracted the car number, I will, you know, charge the owner by electronic medium, saying that you have been charged a challan for doing traffic violation. Now, what you will validate here is, how do I get the data? You will say, this is how I've got the data, or this is the data which has been acquired. You want to extract the data from that image. You will say, this is a basic model. It extracts. It is, let's say, 90% accurate right now, but it can be taken to 95% with time. But I'm not spending time here. This is the stuff. The next thing is, I'm integrating with a payment solution, which will go and make the, let's say I'm integrating with UPI, and UPI will make the customer's payment. I mean, I'm accessing the, data from the traffic
I've shown that this integration is possible.
Integration has been done. You're showing that integration is possible. This is, and then finally you will say how this will all connect in a loop. How will the value come? How will the organization or the end user who is bringing the product survive and relearn and all that, right? That is what is important, right? And which brings me to one very important perspective, is the whole idea of storytelling. Okay. As a data scientist, you have to be a very good storyteller, a very good communicator. It will be important for you, because once you have built this, right, not everyone is a data scientist. They don't know the features that you're talking about. They don't understand the ML model that you're building. All they understand is, I have a problem, can you predict and solve it, right? So when you start communicating, right, how are you building that? How does it solve the problem? How does it actually work in the real world? That is what is important. So becoming a good storyteller and a good communicator is very important as you become, as you increase your journey in this data science space. So always good if you get comfortable with. If someone is not a good communicator, slowly he should.
If you've done well, if you've done a good job, I think so. It's better you are able to communicate your ideas. It's a very important part in a hackathon.
Yeah, if you can't sell your, that's why I always say this line: a good data scientist is one who can think like a scientist, code like a developer and sell like a salesman. That's very important, because
yeah.
if you can build but you can't sell it, or if you can't communicate that this is great, someone should use it, then there is no value of that solution, right?
So at the end, I would like to get a key insight from you for all the youngsters that are watching. Any key thing that you would like to tell them?
So all the youngsters, the only thing I would say is don't jump into data science because it is the hottest career out there. Only jump if you think all these types of things you want to do. It is going to be challenging. It is not like the other, software part of things where life is still more stable and streamlined. This is going to be very, it's going to be, it's going to be a roller coaster, ups and downs. You will see that 70% data science projects don't survive, right?
Don't survive,
So you might see disappointment in terms of the work that you're doing, not passing through the gate, right? So passing that hurdle is important. It is going to be a challenging process. So you can't say I have learned this programming language, I'm done for my life. No, every 6 months, new tool is coming, new technology stack is coming. You have to continuously evolve. You have to spend at least 5-6 hours every week just for learning new things, right? So can you take up that mental stress at some point of time, right? And this so those things are important. And that this whole idea of saying that okay, it's not going to be the trajectory is not well established,
well
right?
established, yeah.
If you look at an IT administrator or a software developer or a database administrator, these are various roles in IT, right? Their trajectory is well established. We know what a database at that DBA will do,
because
right, in the next 6 years.
Those things have been
It's
there in the
matured.
market for 50 years, for 60 years. We have seen that they have matured in their space. But data science, as of now,
Correct.
it's an evolving industry, and
It's an evolving, and we'll see a lot of dramatic changes, right? So if you find this is fun and this is the type of thing that you want to do, and and by the way, there are a lot of other amazing careers behind other than data science, right? So it's not that it's the only one. So always find the right fitment for you. Don't jump the gun. Don't say I will take a course. It is not an easy thing. If you take an online course or a offline course for a year, don't think that you can become great at that. It needs a lot of perseverance and time from your side, and multi-skill that you have to acquire. So if you are ready for it, go for it. It is going to be rewarding in the long term, as long as you put in the right efforts and you are the right person to do that. And if that's the case, then I think this is going to be a great journey for you going ahead, and you will fund the ride.
Yeah.
You will have a enjoyable ride in that entire space. Yeah.
So don't jump the gun and find your right fit is what we are taking from this interview. Thanks a lot, Sony, for joining us. And it was a pleasure talking to you about data science, and your words always inspire me. And I think so my viewers will also be inspired in taking up data science. Thanks a lot, Sony.
Thanks, Shakul. Pleasure talking with you.